Into the news hour, as experts have called on the Ugandan Parliament to allocate funds to ministries, departments and agencies to facilitate the implementation of Access to Information Act. While addressing journalists at the Uganda Media Center, Robert Sendugwa, the Executive Director of Africa Freedom of Information Center, says that they established the systems for implementing the law were not available, calling upon the Ministry of ICT to give support to ministries, departments and agencies to implement the act. Have a look at this report.
According to Section 3 of the Access to Information Act, every citizen is supposed to access information easily and in a timely manner. The Act provides for a maximum of 21 days within which a citizen's information request is responded to. Delayed release of information leads to the loss of usability of the information, especially for journalistic work, as well as the enforcement of human rights and freedoms. Addressing journalists at Uganda Media Center, Robert Sendugwa, the Executive Director of Africa Freedom of Information Center, says that they established that systems for implementing the law were not available, calling upon the Ministry of ICT to give support to ministries, departments and agencies to implement the act.
We also established that systems for implementing this law were not in place. And this is why we are calling upon the Ministry of National Guidance, ICT and National Guidance, to prioritize giving support to MDAs so that they are able to implement this act and ensure that citizens can access the information these agencies have. We also call upon the African Union, UNESCO, the United Nations Office, the United Nations, the UN Human Rights, to support the government of Uganda and other African governments to adopt and effectively implement respective national access to information laws. We call upon civil society organizations to mainstream access to information in their respective strategies and plans, because access to information is about everything, whether it is about health, education, or women's rights. Information is at the center.
We called on Ugandan Parliament to allocate funds to ministries, departments and agencies to facilitate the implementation of Access to Information Act.
Parliament also should allocate sufficient budget to every institution, ministries, departments and agencies to facilitate the implementation of the Access to Information Act. And Parliament should also urgently amend the Access to Information Act and bring it in line with the model law on access to information for African Union member states to include relevant private bodies within the scope of disclosure, reduce statutory timelines within which agencies must respond to information requests they receive, and strengthen the oversight for the implementation of the Access to Information Act through an establishment of an independent and well-resourced Information Commission.
The Honorable Minister of State for ICT, Godfrey Baluku Kabyanga, encouraged all public institutions to avail information of fundamental interest to citizens who are seeking for trust and clarity in the times of crisis.
We encourage all public institutions to continue displaying leadership by proactively disclosing information of fundamental interest to citizens who are looking for trust and reassurance and clarity in the times of crisis.
Let me begin by expressing our solidarity with all stakeholders and renewing our commitment to work with the government, development partners, civil society and media organisations towards a safe and secure working environment for journalists. We commend the Ministry of ICT and National Guidance, UNESCO, the Africa Freedom of Information Centre and Twawezi East Africa for the partnership with our office for organising this launch on the theme of the right to know, building back better.
Baluku, who launched the commemoration of International Day for Universal Access to Information, says a government is considering reopening Facebook. The freezing of Facebook by a government in Uganda has negatively impacted business conducted online.
The Minister has told you that we are negotiating, and negotiations are still going on. But you should also know that we are a sovereign state. There is no social media network or any other media network that can hold us at what? At ransom. We must put our position very clear as a sovereign state that this is what we want and this is what we don't want. But negotiations are going on with Facebook, and very soon you will enjoy those services. Very soon. I promise that.
It is an obligation of the state to sensitize its citizens on the right to information. However, Uganda's citizens, including information officers and various officials in some government ministries, departments and agencies, remain ignorant about the existence of the law on access to information. Other Ugandans are even being asked to pay money for them to access information.
I don't know yet, I don't know whether my colleagues here know, but there is little money you're supposed to pay for some information. It's not really a lot. But I think the issue is not the money that you pay. But I think the issue is how fast you get the what? The information. It may not be the money, because some of it is 5,000, something like that. I think one current center which is around 20,000. But how fast do you get the information? And we are handling that as a ministry. We are coming up with a communication strategy, which I think will be completed within a month, where we are bringing together all ministries and agencies so that we have some single line of communication, so that when you need information, if you can't get it from any agency, you come to our ministry and we shall get that information.
The law says that information should not be charged. There should be no access fee. It should be free of charge. It says that, however, citizens can pay for processing fees, e.g. photocopying. So access itself is free. But for example, if you want, say, maybe, let's say, register of electoral commission, which is in millions of pages, the cost would be very high, maybe for that agency to afford, if you wanted it in hard copies. So they say in that case, they can pay photocopying fees or bring a flash and then the agency gives. But the practice is different. For example, I have on my desk a response from National Medical Stores where we're asked to pay 10 million shillings. This is not in accordance with the law. I also read in the newspapers last year where someone was asking for documents, academic qualifications of someone from a electoral commission, and I think they asked for 300,000 shillings. So that is against the spirit of the law, and I think citizens need dialogue with the government on this regard so that the law is implemented in line with the spirit of the law.
That is the dialogue we shall be having with you and others. So you let us keep dialoguing. Probably by the end of 2 weeks, we shall come out with resolutions that we can sell to other entities.
Information can be generally described as facts, a collection of factual details about a specific subject. Access to information in this context is the ability to access information which is under the control of the government institution. Access to information is a fundamental human right recognized by international human rights instruments, including the Article 9 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which provides that. Pedson Mumbere, Smart 24 TV.
Access to information in any country is actually a mandate It's actually a human right for one to actually access information and relevant information in that regard. That is one of the reasons as to why we do have television stations and media stations in the different media stations in the country. Access to information is a fundamental human right, which is recognized by the international human rights instruments, including Article 19 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which provides that particular aspect for information. And it's one of the reasons as to why experts have been calling on to the government to allocate funds to ministries and departments and agencies to facilitate the implementation of access to information and the Access to the Information Act. And according to the Director of Africa Freedom of Information Center, they established the systems of implementing the law that were not available, calling upon the Ministry of ICT to clearly endorse this and emphasize, as well as support ministries and departments and agencies to supplement this particular act. According to the Section 3D of the Access to Information Act, every citizen is supposed to access information easily and in a timely manner. And supporting easily, I would say, as a journalist, we also need the rights set out on board. Because if we are to inform the citizens, we need to have security from the officials, all the top officers out there who are always fighting the journalists who are providing information to that before anything else. So clearly, you would see what it means for information to come to anyone, because according to experts, information is key to every Ugandan, and every Ugandan or every human being is entitled to information in any regard. Moving on, the government, through the Ministry of Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities, is set to open Lake Victoria Tourism Circuit as a way of improving the leisure industry. The Lake Victoria Tourism Circuit project is worth 706 million Ugandan shillings and will kick off in 6 months. Padison Mumbere reports.
In the process of reshaping wildlife narration, the manager of Education and Information Department at the Uganda Wildlife Education Center, David Musingo, said that the environment, through the Ministry of Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities, is set to open Lake Victoria Tourism Circuit project as a way of enhancing the industry. This will improve the wildlife and other tourist activities along Lake Victoria, which is one of the core bridge of raising Ugandan flag as the best tourism destination of the world. UWEC secured funds from the World Bank to push the project.
And UWEC, working with the Ministry of Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities and other stakeholders, we are opening Lake Victoria through what we call Lake Victoria Tourism Circuit. What we are doing first is developing the master plan. We have got funding from the World Bank through what we call SEDEP, additional funding, and we are going to involve some of you in developing the master plan. Initially, we thought it's only around Entebbe, but we have expanded it to other regions, up to Kalangala, up to Vuma, up to Jinja. Once we have the master plan for Lake Victoria, it will attract in even private sector.
The Lake Victoria Tourism Circuit project is worth 706 million and will kick off in 6 months after the finalization of the major master plan. The master plan will address National Conservation Education Strategy for Uganda and ecotourism projects.
The defining factor in this case is the master plan. The master plan, it has a lot of details. One of the areas which is important is identifying stakeholders and their roles. So if you don't have a master plan, people will take advantage. You'll have military coming in, occupying the space of everybody. So a master plan stipulates the roles, the activities to be done, innovations. So we need a master plan. And this master plan will bring different stakeholders on board to articulate issues, come up with solutions, how we can make Entebbe the best tourism destination, and developing products and services so that we can attract and attract tourists and spur development.
According to Education and Information Department Manager David Musingo, UWEC, is formerly known as Entebbe Zoo, is also about to acquire a luxurious art boat that has a capacity of 50 passengers with a speed of about 40 knots.
Someone and sell merchandise. Yeah. So because of these are very important, you can see as a whole
UWEC is in a bid to work with various institutions and train the community in order to revise the negative trends of spoiling the wetland, e.g. Makanaga, and to reshape the ecotourism project's approach. The ecotourism development areas such as Kalangala, Buvuma and Jinja, among others, are also given much consideration in the development process. The projects are also targeted to be the turn point of eliminating poverty in developing the community along Lake Victoria. This will also attract investors, organizations and other players to unlock tourism activities along Lake Victoria.
To promote conservation of wildlife when the environment is hostile, when people are living in abject poverty, it is very, very, very hard. The best thing is empowering them, having what we call enterprises that are ecologically friendly, having what we call homestays around the community, developing other treasures like the local cuisines, crafts, even farming. If you have farming like beekeeping, I know who is trying in some of these communities so that people can earn what? An income. Tour guiding, you train local people to appreciate tourism so that the local people are engaged. You expose them, you take them to your here, even outside. Like we have exchange program. If it was not COVID, we can have exchange programs. We have MOUs with colleagues in Kenya. We have MOUs with colleagues in South Africa. Some of these people can be identified so that they go to those countries and come back and innovate because they know their environment better. So that for you, you guide them. Then directly depending on what? The parks. Definitely, they will be in conflict with wildlife. If you are living in abject poverty, that is definite. They will always be in conflict.
Story compiled by Bahati Ali.
The Lake Victoria Tourism Circuit project is worth 706 million Ugandan shillings and will kick off in 6 months after the finalization of the major master plan that has been laid on board. The master plan will address national conservation education strategy for Uganda and the ecotourism projects and the national outlook master plan that will bear plans for all areas along the Lake Victoria Basin. And according to the Education and Information Department Manager, Mr. David Musingo, UWEC, formerly known as Entebbe Zoo, will definitely also be having a luxurious art boat that has a capacity of 50 passengers with speed of about 40 knots. And definitely tourists will be heading to UWEC or the Uganda Wildlife Education Center will actually also have to get more services, extra services of getting through the boat cruise via Lake Victoria and also visiting different islands on board as well as when you go over there. So clearly it is a very good move for the government as the projects are also targeted to be the turn point of eliminating poverty and the turn point of eliminating poverty and developing the communities around Lake Victoria, not only those around the Uganda Wildlife Education Center. All right, moving on. Moving on, three have been arrested purchasing baby for suspected South Sudanese trafficker. Charles Twine, the spokesperson of the Criminal Investigations Directorate, CID, has confirmed the arrest of the three suspects but declined to divulge more details, saying that investigations are still ongoing to apprehend more suspects. Have a look at this report.
The Special Investigation Unit in Chireka is holding three suspects on allegation of attempting to buy a 2-month-old baby for a suspected South Sudanese trafficker in Kampala. The suspects are Gerald Akankwasa, a Wakiso-based medical doctor, Kenneth Kayondo, and Christine Nambi. Police detectives picked up the trio from the Royal Motel in the city suburbs of Nalukolongo. Upon interrogations, the suspect revealed to police that they were hired by a South Sudanese woman identified as Monica Akelo. One of the detectives told URN that they raided the motel in a tip-off by a neighbor to one of the suspects, indicating that some people were looking for a child to buy at shillings 20 million from Nansana and other areas. Charles Atwine, the spokesperson of the Criminal Investigation Directorate, has confirmed the arrest of the suspects but declined to reveal more details, saying that investigations are still ongoing to apprehend more suspects. This comes at a time when police and the Directorate of Citizenship and Immigration Control have doubled efforts to fight child trafficking that is on the rise. It's estimated that close to 25 million people across the globe are trafficked every year.
The Chireka Best Special Investigation Unit, CIU, is holding 3 suspects on the allegations of attempting to buy a 2-month-old baby for a suspected South Sudanese trafficker in Kampala. Clearly, you could see, I didn't mention of the fact that human trafficking is still taking center stage in Uganda and other parts of Africa, and we do hope that different security organs take charge and clearly see that we clear out this evil of human trafficking that is also taking through in regards to youngins in the babies over there. All right, now we head to the international scene as Microsoft and LinkedIn team up to better hybrid work experience. The two organizations have come together to help employees and customers transform to hybrid work and reimagine everything. Take a look at this report.
Microsoft and LinkedIn have launched several new features and product innovation to help companies transition to the hybrid of work, working virtually and in the offices. As organizations across the globe navigate the challenges and opportunities of hybrid work, technology is seen as the greatest enabler. The two organizations have thus come together to help their employees and their customers as they transform for hybrid work and reimagine everything from meeting that transact space and time to digital employee experience that everyone can access from anywhere. Satya Nadella, the Microsoft CEO, in a statement said that right now every leader is grappling with how to have effective hybrid meeting, often with limited equipment and resources. Hybrid meetings are an entirely new kind of meeting and require rethinking on how to approach and conduct them to ensure that they are putting every attendee on equal footing, no matter where they are seated.
Satya Nadella, the Microsoft CEO, in a statement clearly came out and said every leader is grappling with how to have effective hybrid meetings, often with limited equipment and resources. Hybrid meetings are an entirely new kind of meeting and require rethinking how they can definitely approach and conduct them to ensure we're putting every attendee on equal footing, no matter where they are sitting or best in any regard or that particular aspect. Let's head into a short break. SMB continues.